The female monster extended her sharp tentacles toward Mommy. Mommy, still consumed with thoughts of her missing daughter, quickly noticed the attack approaching with incredible speed. In an instant, sharp nails emerged from Mommy's hands, and with vengeful precision, she caught the tentacles midair. In the blink of an eye, the tentacle was split in half. The female monster cried out in pain, cold sweat forming on her brow. Before she could catch her breath, another attack came her way. The female monster lunged with her tentacles again, but her opponent dodged effortlessly, leaving her in disbelief. At that moment, Mommy's sharp needle-like claws aimed directly at the monster. Panicked, the monster used her palm to block the strike. Mommy, glaring at her foe, thought to herself, "I must kill her quickly and find my daughter." The female monster soon realized she was outmatched. Her movements became sluggish, and a chilling realization dawned on her. Her hands were frozen, and she could no longer regenerate. Only then did she notice Mommy had been repeatedly attacking the same spot. "She's paralyzing me." The monster's body trembled as she acknowledged her opponent's overwhelming strength. "I can't win. I can't even touch her," she thought. Desperate, the female monster made a final gamble. Using her tentacle, she severed her split limb and then bit down hard on her own wrist. A moment later, a severed hand fell to the ground. Gritting her teeth, she charged at Mommy once more. Mommy, observing her opponent's reckless attack, resolved to end the fight swiftly. Just as the female monster reached her, she unexpectedly flung her blood into Mommy's eyes, blinding her momentarily. Taking advantage of the distraction, the female monster fled, thinking, "I can't win against her. I need to find the male monster and take revenge later." Moments later, the ground was soaked with blood and strewn with severed limbs. The male monster, now limbless, muttered in disbelief, "How is this possible? You're just a weak human." Hera stared at him coldly, as if reading his thoughts. "You wonder why a soft human like me could defeat you? It's simple. You're just too weak." Without hesitation, she raised her axe to deliver the final blow. However, the monster killed himself before she could strike, muttering, "Father will never let you live." The female monster, still fleeing, screamed her brother's name in anguish. Behind her, Mommy roared, "You filthy kidnapper! Give me back my daughter!" The female monster, enraged, stumbled upon her brother's corpse. She cursed loudly, "You bastards! What did you do to my brother?" At that moment, Mommy arrived, panting, and demanded, "Where's my daughter?" From the shadows, Mommy's daughter appeared, overjoyed to see her mother alive. Before Hera could attack, Bear restrained her. She asked, "Why did you come here?" "It's too dangerous," Bear responded cheerfully. "My family was in danger. Of course, I came to save you." Mommy ignored him, instead focusing on finding her daughter. Finally spotting her child, Mommy embraced her tightly, shedding tears of relief. Hera exclaimed with frustration, "As a mother, don't you notice the changes in your own daughter?" The father, who had been standing quietly, immediately stepped forward in defense. "You saved my daughter, and for that, I am grateful to you. But what you said is unwarranted. This was my failure from the beginning. Don't take it out on my wife." At his words, the mother abruptly stood, her expression unreadable. For a moment, it seemed like she might confront Hera, but instead, Mommy knelt, her sharp claws gently tracing words into Bear's palm. The message was brief but heavy with gratitude. "Thank you for saving my daughter. It's my fault she's in this state. We need to find the necessary supplies here and then go to Hope Village for her treatment. I have nothing to offer now, but I will repay this debt someday." Looking at the written plea, the mother turned to Hera and asked for her name. Hera, realizing the weight of the moment and her earlier harshness, introduced herself. She explained she's a friend of their daughter. Mommy was surprised by this, and Bear thought she was too old to be her friend. Immediately Bear began scolding Chuckbach on behalf of her mother. With a worried expression she declared that Hera told her to keep it a secret. She smiled and declares that Hera is a good person. However, her person didn't care and continued to scold her. But Hera told her that's enough. She explains Chuckbach is telling the truth. Why does it matter since nothing has happened? In a cold tone she commented that there are fewer monsters. But this is not a suitable place for a child. Since they have time to talk, they'd better find supplies. That's when Mommy noticed her acts and realized that she was the one that saved her earlier. Mommy, using Bear again, requested to know who she is. But Hera responded, I'm friend of Chuckbach. Their journey through the labyrinthine tunnels was anything but peaceful. Every now and then, grotesque zombie creatures would emerge from the shadows. Yet, before they could pose any real threat, Hera and Mommy dispatched them with ruthless efficiency. Soon, they stumbled upon an underground warehouse. Overwhelmed by relief, the father and daughter eagerly opened a large package, finding it filled with vital supplies. Among the chaos of survival, there was a rare moment of joy as the daughter clutched her favorite snacks, laughing freely. The sound seemed to lift a heavy weight from the group's shoulders, and even Hera allowed herself a soft smile. However, Mommy's gaze lingered on Hera, who was chatting warmly with her daughter. A wave of unease washed over her. She came all this because she's Chuckbach's friend, Mommy thought. She's strong, even capable of taking down powerful monsters. She's no ordinary person. Yet why do I feel this nagging sense of dread whenever I look at her? With their packs full, the group prepared to leave. The father, cautious as ever, tucked his daughter into his jacket to keep her safe. They moved swiftly toward the exit, but the mother suddenly froze, her instincts screaming of imminent danger. A low rumble echoed through the tunnel. Without warning, a pair of massive hands burst forth from the darkness. The mother shoved the father forward, urging him to run. The hands clawed closer, their sheer size dwarfing everything else in the cavern. The path ahead was blocked by a horde of frenzied zombie monsters, panicked by the arrival of the giant hands. Screeching in terror, they fled, inadvertently clearing the way for the group. However, as they ran, they reached a fork in the road. The father, frazzled, shouted, "Which way do we go?" Before anyone could answer, one of the massive hands slammed into the right tunnel, blocking their escape. Hera, sharp-eyed and calm under pressure, observed the situation carefully. "It's deliberate," she murmured. Mommy's eyes narrowed in understanding. "The master of this underground labyrinth is toying with us," she growled. As if in response to her words, a chilling laugh echoed through the cavern. 3 glowing red eyes pierced the darkness, and the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps grew louder. The group had no choice but to sprint down the left tunnel, their hearts pounding as the giant hands clawed closer. The air grew colder, heavier. Just when they thought they had found the exit, they were met with a towering wall, flanked by a group of grotesque monsters. Mommy stepped forward, her protective instincts kicking in. But before she could act, the giant hands loomed overhead, and from their shadow emerged a figure clad in blood-red garments. The woman in red stood tall and menacing, her crimson eyes surveying the group with dark amusement. Her gaze settled on Mommy, and a wicked grin spread across her face. "Finally," she purred. "I've found you." Bear turned to his wife, confusion written on his face. "Do you know her?" But Mommy's thoughts were elsewhere. She stared at the woman, her sharp fangs bared in defiance. Her mind raced, trying to understand why this creature felt so familiar, yet so utterly alien. Those eyes, why do they look just like mine? Mommy finds herself facing a strange adversary, someone who feels both familiar and utterly foreign. She cannot shake the question, who is this being? Suddenly, the Overlord, a towering figure with an ominous presence, stamps her foot heavily into the ground and declares, "I have suffered because of you. But now you are here, and I will take back what is mine. You stole my flesh, and I will reclaim it." Behind Mommy, her husband, Bear, anxiously asks, "Did you take something from her? If so, return it immediately and flee for your life." Mommy shakes her head emphatically, insisting she took nothing. The Overlord sneers, her twisted face stretching into a mocking smile. "Of course, you don't recognize me. With my current appearance, it's no wonder. But recognition is unnecessary. All I need to do is kill you and retrieve my body." Hera grips her axe as she says, "Keep Chuckbox safe." Bear speaks with concern. "Are you going to fight with that?" She responds, "Stop disturbing me and stand behind. I'll handle this no matter what." She walks forward, but she is stopped by Mommy. Hera asks her, "What are you doing?" Bear also questions her. "What's up with that look?" Mommy thinks to herself as she bares her fangs, "If I can't kill it, at least I have to stop it. In order to do that, this is the only way." She groans, thinking to herself, "I'll be in extreme pain while using it, but I have no choice." Her claws crack as they begin to glow red. She groans as her tail also begins to glow red. She says, "I must hold it in." Bear looks worried as he says, "Are you going to use it while fighting?" Chuckbach also peeks from his jacket. She yells, "Be careful, Mommy!" Mommy dashes forward. "I'll stop the monster." Gumdoll and the others look back as other monsters surround them. Hera jumps into action as she pushes Bear back and attacks the monsters. Meanwhile, Mommy's tentacles crackle. Father speaks, "I knew you had it. Now I am going to get mine back." The monstrous arms extend toward her as she swiftly dodges and then hits him repeatedly. Father groans in anger. "Do you know what I've gone through to get this body? And you dare to destroy my hands?" His hands throb as poison spreads through them. She dashes toward him as he groans. She attacks, thinking, "I have to finish it quickly." That's when her leg is grabbed by a long tongue. She looks down in confusion. Bear looks at her and screams, "Is that a tongue?" She is suspended in the air as a tongue from the monstrous figure beneath Father's feet holds her. Father speaks, "How are my acting skills?" She looks tense as Father speaks with a smile. "I'm so glad that you have come so close to greet me. How thoughtful." She attacks him with her tentacle, but he yanks her to the ceiling. Bear watches as worry takes over him. "Oh no!" he yells. "Stop it!" Chuckbach watches in fear. Chuckbach's Mommy falls to the ground as her body cracks. "What is this?" she mutters. The shock sends her into a flashback. She is running as a human, thinking to herself, "Am I running? Where am I going?" Suddenly, something wiggles further, and she thinks, "Something has just stabbed me." She stands as tentacles have pierced her head. She says, "What is this?" Now we see Chuckbach's Mommy lying in a crater formed by her body being slammed into the floor. Blood spews out of her mouth. That's when she is thrown into the air again as Chuckbach yells, "Mommy!" The monster taunts her, saying, "Is that all you got using my power? This is far more disappointing. Did you really think that a filthy little creature like you can fight against me?" She lies on the ground, her body bloodied. He speaks, "How foolish. Blame yourself for getting carried away with your power." Seeing everything, anger takes over Chuckbach. She jumps out of her father's jacket as she runs towards them, yelling, "Stop hurting Mommy!" Bear runs behind her, yelling while fighting monsters. "What are you doing? Get her now!" He rushes forward, but a monster attacks him, hindering him from moving forward. He yells, "Chuckbach, wait! Chuckbach!" Chuckbach extends her hand, yelling, "Mommy!" The story transitions into a flashback of Chuckbach's mommy. Tentacles try to pierce through her skull as she thinks to herself, "It's dangerous. I can feel it in my bones." She pants as she continues, "I have to get rid of this." She grabs the tentacles and tries to pull them out, yelling, "Come on, get off me." She rips the tentacles out of her head as she speaks with relief. "Great, I made it." She falls to her knees as blood trickles down her head. "I'm okay now," she says, looking back. Suddenly, her expression changes to fear as the tentacles form into a hand with claws. She watches in horror as it leaps toward her. She screams, "No! Go away! Stop it!" She covers her head and yells again, "Stop!" Her eyes spread open as Chuckbach's voice breaks through the flashback. She screams, "Stop hurting my mommy!" Chuckbach's mommy jolts awake, thinking to herself, that was Chuckbach's voice. She pushes herself up and sees her daughter standing in front of her, yelling at the monster, "If you punch my mommy again, I'm going to beat you up." Chuckbach points at the monster with her mutated finger. Her mommy tries to get up and weakly says, "No, Chuckbach, run." Bear yells, "Chuckbach!" as he and Hera are surrounded by monsters. Chuckbach's mommy pants, thinking to herself, "I can't move because of the impact. But I must protect Chuckbach." The monster stands before Chuckbach and speaks. "It seems your name is Chuckbach. I have a question for you. What are you?" Chuckbach cries as the monster continues, "Are you human?" He looks at her finger and sneers, "Or a monster? Interesting. How did you get a part of my body?" She yells through her tears, "I don't know. Just don't hit my mommy anymore, you idiot." Chuckbach's mommy groans as she tries to get up. "What are you thinking?" "Please, no." The monster's eyes glow as he speaks. "Is it because she's too young to have a proper conversation with me? Well, at least I found something useful here." Chuckbach's mommy groans as the monster raises its monstrous arm and says, "I'll learn more if I open those two up." Domdall yells, "No!" while he rushes to their side yelling, "Chuckbach!" Chuckbach's mommy tries to speak. "Run, Chuckbach! It's too dangerous here." But the only words that come out are, "Go! Go!" Chuckbach pulls her mother and yells through tears, "No! I won't abandon you, Mommy! I will protect my mommy!" Her mommy's eyes widen as she thinks to herself, how pathetic. Even Chuckbach is trying her best not to give up. She presses her fists to the ground and continues, "She's stronger than me." Her mother stands up, growling as her tentacles begin to glow again. She pulls herself up, hugs her daughter, and tells herself, "I have to protect my family." She pauses, and as the monstrous hand comes down to crush them, she completes her sentence, "Because I am her mother." The monstrous hand slams down hard. Hera and Bear watch in shock. The monster smiles, saying, "Now that's what I call payback." Suddenly he tenses as he looks at his hand, which has completely melted. "My hand," he mutters. That's when he is attacked from behind. Blows begin to hit him from all sides. His body starts to break down. He gasps, "What happened? She got faster? It can't be. Did she awaken herself in this situation?" Chuckbach's mommy slides back as the father's body sizzles and breaks down. Bear watches and exclaims, "Wow, its flesh is melting." His eyes widen. What on earth is happening right now? Chuckbach speaks to her mother. "Wow, Mommy! A whip! You got one more whip!" She stands menacingly as the monster sneers. "Interesting. Now give it your best shot." Monsters scatter in fear, screaming, "Get me out of here!" That's when the dungeon master's child appears from the corner, giggling and chanting, "Play with me! Play with me! Play with me! The scene cuts back to the fight. Father, wounded, speaks with anger. You dare ruin my precious body? I underestimated you. Chuckbox Mommy stands at a distance as he continues. I admit it. He raises his arm, blood spurting out of it. I tried to be merciful, but you've crossed the line. The monstrous arms zoom forward as Bear yells. It's coming! But the arms instead begin gathering the corpses of the dead monsters. Bear watches, puzzled. Why is it taking the corpses? The blob-like monster devours the corpses, swallowing everything. Bear's face fills with confusion. Wait, what is happening? The blob shifts, growing into an enormous monster. The ground cracks beneath it as it rises. Everyone stares at the creature in terror. Chuckbach mutters, "It's humongous." Bear drops his weapons, thinking, we're doomed. How could we even fight against that? It's impossible to kill it. We can't even run away. What should we do? Mommy steps forward, pushing Chuckbach toward Bear. He looks at his wife, seeing the determination on her face. No, you're not fighting this. No way. He grabs her arm, pleading. There must be a way. We can fight it together. Please don't go. You might not make it out alive. She places her hands on his face, silencing him. She smiles softly and says, Trust me. Her voice is broken but firm. Wait for me. I'll be back soon. She holds his face tightly, whispering, It's okay. Don't worry. Bear clenches his fists, guilt consuming him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being such a weak husband. He hugs Chuckbach tightly and says, Don't worry about her. You have a great mommy. He smiles at her and cheers. Kick that monster's butt. Chuckbach joins in, yelling, Go get it, Mommy. Mommy walks forward as the monster launches its fist down toward her. The impact shakes the ground, creating a shockwave. Mommy! Chuckbach screams. The monster, towering over everyone, speaks with cold curiosity. Why are you risking your life to protect your family? He sneers. I also have a family, but the sacrifice you're making is quite odd. As a parent, I am the priority of my family. My children obey my orders without question. He recalls his son and daughter, adding, To repay my kindness for raising them, that is what you call a real family. Chuckbach's mommy appears behind him and growls. That's not a family. You treated them like slaves for your own sake. You do not deserve to be called a parent. Her tentacles glow as she lunges forward. Father grits his teeth, pulling a lump from the monstrous body to shield himself from her attack. The lump melts as he speaks. How annoying! He swings his arm at her. She blocks it and digs her necrotic hand into his hand, then zooms over his entire arm, slashing him all over. She yells, Die! Lumps of meat grab her foot, and Father grabs her. He looks at her and speaks with anger. You rat! You ruined my arm! He starts crushing her, saying, I'll squeeze your bones and organs. She groans, thinking to herself, No, I am going to lose consciousness. Suddenly, Father loses his balance. He falls, releasing his grip on Chuckbach's mom. He looks down and realizes his leg has been cut. It was Hera, who yells at Chuckbach's mom. Wake up! She looks at Hera, who says, I'll buy you some time. Get rid of this monster. Move! She looks at Hera and thinks to herself, I'm going to do that without you nagging me. She regains her balance and joins H. They both attack head-on. Bear watches from behind, speaking in awe. Wow, they are amazing fighters! Chuckbach speaks confidently. Mom and H will win for sure. Bear answers. Sure, I believe in them as well. Suddenly a voice is heard. Play with me! They turn to see the dungeon master's son. Chuckbok recognizes him and yells, "You!" Chuckbok's mom fights with renewed determination, thinking to herself, "I must protect her even if I have to risk my life." She slashes through father's flesh and speaks aloud, "I must get my family out of here." Hera fights the monster alongside her. Reaching her limits, she thinks, "Should I take Chuckbok and get out of here?" As she slashes the monster's arm, she hesitates, thinking, "If I abandon those two, I could at least protect Chuckbok." A parallel emerges between Chuckbok's mom and Hera as they each decide their course of action. Chuckbok's mom says aloud, "Nevertheless," H interjects, continuing, "But surely, Mom and I will kill that lump and get out of here together." The monster roars and stomps the ground. Father speaks from above, sneering, "You meaningless creatures! You'll all die because of your worthless decisions." The dungeon master's child stands confused. Bear mutters, "It's a kid, but what is this smell?" Chuckbok chimes in, "Bear, that's the monster that bothered me." He looks at her and says, "What?" Chuckbok continues, flaring her arms wide. "He can stretch out his arms. He hit me with them." Bear observes the kid and says, "All right, leave it to me." But inwardly he worries, this little monster seems angry. The monster kid recalls its earlier fight with Chuckbok and dashes toward them. Bear swings his leg toward the monster kid and shouts, "Go away, kid!" The kid stops abruptly. Bear mutters, "What the? He's way weaker than I thought." As he observes, memories flood his mind. How can a weak monster like this even be here? Monsters usually run when they sense danger. Looking back at the kid, he wonders, but why did it come here? The monster kid stares at father and utters, "Play with me!" Bear's eyes widen as he stammers, "What did you say?" Father, towering and bloodied, roars. The ground trembles beneath him. Chuckbok's mom is held in one of father's monstrous hands. Father speaks with disdain. "This is reality. No matter what you sacrifice for your family or how much hidden power you wield, none of it makes a difference. All that awaits you now is despair." Chuckbok's mom growls, her glowing eyes defiant. Father glares at her. "Your eyes tell me you haven't given up," he says. Opening the monster's gaping mouth, a long tongue extends toward her. As the tongue lunges forward, she growls, determined, "Now be gone!" A voice suddenly echoes from the dungeon. "Hey, you!" Everyone's attention shifts to the voice. "Get your hands off my girl right now!" the voice commands. "If not, your kid will be in danger." Bear is holding the dungeon master's child, who squirms in his grasp. Chuckbok shouts, "Let my mommy go, you big dummy!" Father, unfazed, smirks. "That must be the dungeon master's kid. What are you going to do with it?" Chuckbok's mom yells, "Stay there! Go!" But Bear persists, tightening his grip. "What am I going to do with this kid?" "Use him as a hostage, of course." The child wails, "Let my mommy go right now." Father looks down, unimpressed. "Are you trying to arouse my sympathy? What a pointless effort." Bear stays silent. Suddenly, Father's finger flickers. His expression changes as he thinks, "Did my finger just?" Bear continues, "If you say so, then you won't mind if I hurt him, right?" The monster kid, still wailing, cries out, "Play with me, Mommy!" Father's body begins to tremble as he thinks to himself, "I am losing control of this body." The kid cries and calls out, "Mommy!" Suddenly, the dungeon master's memories start flowing into Father's mind. He recalls the dungeon master holding the child's hand, feeding him, and playing with his face. Tears begin flowing down the dungeon master's face as she whispers, "My baby." Father becomes worried, thinking to himself, Am I losing control because of this trivial emotion? This is impossible. As his thoughts spiral, he loses control of the body and realizes, this body is indeed being agitated by that child. Is it because of its maternal instinct? So be it. Then I should take my body back. Father looks at his monstrous hand, only to realize that Chuckbox's mom has vanished. He looks up and sees her in the air. He yells, "No!" as he thrusts his claws forward. That's when she hurls her axe at his hand, severing it. From afar, she declares, "Don't you dare!" Chuckbox's mom swings her arm, slashing him open. Father mutters, "Dang!" before collapsing. The dungeon master whispers weakly, "My baby!" Bear exclaims, "She did it!" Chuckbox cheers, "You're the best, Mommy!" Bear adds, "She finally got that damn thing off!" As Father's eye falls, Chuckbox's mom looks at the lump of flesh and says, "All I need to do now is kill that." She dives toward it when Father stabs her palm with a tentacle. Groaning in pain, she thinks, its tentacle went into my hand. Father's eyes narrow as she notices, is it smirking? Her claws glow as she strikes, but a projectile barely misses her. Dayan appears, shielding Father. She holds onto him as Chuckbox's mom, surprised, asks, "How can it still be alive?" She groans, thinking, excruciating pain is running through my tentacle. I have to fight. As she starts falling, she wonders, why now, of all times? Dang it! She groans in pain, falling to the ground. Dayan flees with Father in tow, leaving Chuckbox's mom behind. Bear shouts, "Dodge, baby!" Confused, Chuckbox's mom turns her head to see the dungeon master's massive body crashing down on her. It lands heavily, burying her beneath. Chuckbox cries out in worry, "Mommy!" The dust settles, and the group rushes toward the fallen figure. Chuckbox yells, "Hera!" Hera, wounded and bleeding, stands weakly and asks, "Chuckbox, are you okay?" Chuckbox runs to her, hugging her leg tightly. "Yeah," she replies, tears in her eyes. Bear speaks, "She finally defeated it." They glance around as Chuckbox says, "But where's my mom?" Hera motions toward the dungeon master's body. Chuckbox's mom stands, panting, near the still-alive dungeon master. Her eyes glow fiercely, and she mutters, "I missed the heart, but this fight is finally over." The dungeon master coughs, blood spewing from her chest. Her claws glow red, and she weakly whispers, "My baby!" Chuckbox's mom raises her hand, thinking, if I kill this dungeon master now, it'll be easier for us. She lunges forward, but suddenly, her hand is grabbed by the dungeon master's child. The child cries, "Mommy, play!" The dungeon master, weakened, gazes at her child and groans, "My baby!" Chuckbox's mom hesitates, staring at the child. Bear and the group turn away, discomforted by the scene. The child's cries grow louder, pestering Chuckbox's mom. Finally, she sighs and stabs the dungeon master with her tentacle. The monster groans as fluid is pumped into her. "Mommy!" the child screams, hitting Chuckbox's mom with his tiny fists. Turning to Bear, Chuckbox asks, "Daddy, is Mommy helping her?" He nods. "Don't worry, Chuckbox. Mommy is trying to help." Chuckbox's mom pulls her tentacle out as the child continues to cry. Finally, she yells, "Hey! Stop punching me! It actually hurts!" The child sobs, looking away. Then his eyes widen as his mother stirs. The dungeon master sits up weakly, calling out, "My baby!" Tears stream down the child's face as he rushes to his mother, embracing her tightly. Chuckbox's mom watches the tender moment and thinks, they're just like us. She may be a terrifying monster, but she's also a mother who loves her child, just like me. Turning to her daughter, Chuckbox's mom softly says, It's all over now. Chuckbach rushes to her, hugging her tightly. Mommy! Her mom holds her and thinks, my gosh, you startled me, Chuckbach. Chuckbach smiles and says, let's go home, Mommy. Her mom replies, okay, let's go home, baby girl. They walk out of the dungeon, leaving the dungeon master behind with her child. The scene shifts to Dayan and her father. Dayan looks worried as she asks, are you sure you'll be okay, Father? You didn't absorb the dungeon master. Father, now in his old body, strides ahead. I'm fine, he answers. I drained enough nutrients from the others. She hesitates before continuing. Then, what should we do now? Father recalls the battle with Chuckbach's mom. His expression darkens as he says, we're going to chase that monster and her daughter. Dayan frowns. But how? We don't even know where they are. Father smirks coldly. I have a way to track them already. He remembers piercing Chuckbach's mom's hand. All I have to do is retrieve my body. Once I'm whole again, I'll no longer rely on absorbing powers from others. His gaze hardens as he declares, tell all your siblings of the cannibal tribe. I want them to bring me that mother and daughter. Now. Elsewhere, under the night sky, Chuckbach and the group sneak through the streets of the city. Monsters roam nearby, and blood drips from Hera's wounds as she stumbles forward. They arrive home, exhausted. Bear leans against the wall and sighs. Finally, we're home. Chuckbach's mom collapses, and Chuckbach rushes to her. Mommy, are you okay? Her mom manages a weak smile. I'm fine. Bear scans the group. Is everyone here? Chuckbach raises her hand cheerfully. Yep. Chuckbach is totally fine. Her mom nods. Me too. But then Bear's eyes narrow as he notices something. Wait, where's Hera? She was right behind us. The scene cuts to Hera lying face down in the corridor, blood pooling around her. Chuckbach kneels beside her, hands glowing as she chants. Pain, pain, go away, no pain is here, my hands are healing hands. Hera groans, slowly opening her eyes to see Chuckbach's worried face. Hera! Chuckbach exclaims. Hera winces and responds weakly. Soa. Confused, Chuckbach asks. Soa? Who's Soa? I'm Chuckbach. Don't you know who I am? Tears stream down her face as she shakes Hera gently. Don't forget me. Don't get hurt again. Hera groans. Too late. Chuckbach continues. I want you to get better. Hera grumbles. Then, get off me. She pushes Chuckbach aside and looks at her surroundings, noting her clothes, a childish kitty tank top. He extends his bowl as he speaks. I want you to come with us to the Hope Village. She slurps on the noodles as he continues. Of course, we will compensate you the best we can. All I want is for you to keep me and Chuckbach safe until we return from the village. He smiles as he offers his bowl to her and says, What do you think? She puts down her bowl and says, Do you want me to protect you instead of your wife? She grabs his bowl and adds, All right, I will. After pausing for a moment, she asks, Was that the response you expected from me? She smiles wide as she drains the noodles and soup into the pot. Bear and Chuckbach's mom look at her as she continues. You may think of me as a comrade because of what happened in the dungeon, but don't flatter yourself. She looks at them as she speaks. I don't care if you get killed or not. Why would I help you? She glares at them. I will go with you, but I will only protect Chuckbach, as usual. Chuckbach sits in her room, almost finished with her counting. Hera continues, You handle the rest. Bear immediately agrees. All right then, do as you want. I'll take care of myself. This shocks Chuckbach's mom as she looks at him, thinking to herself, What are you saying? You can't do it alone, Noticing her worried expression, he replies with a smile. I have no problem taking care of myself. Don't worry. She looks at Hera and thinks, you stubborn woman. Why is she so obsessed with my daughter as if she's her own? She looks at Hera suspiciously. That's when Chuckbach comes out of her room, annoyed as she speaks. You're all mean. Why isn't anyone coming to find me? Bear replies. Oh dear, have you already counted to 100? She responds with a pout. I finished it already. Lying is a bad thing. He replies. I'm sorry, Chuckbach. Forgive me, will you? She pouts as she clings to Hera, who smiles. Chuckbach speaks. Then I will play with Hera only. Hera pokes her chubby cheeks as she says, let's play. Chuckbach replies, yeah. That's when she is pulled by her mom. She is confused, but then Hera also grabs her and pulls her too. Chuckbach looks at her mom and asks, what's up with that? Chuckbach's mom replies, my daughter. To which Hera says, so what? What do you want? Chuckbach's mom is pissed as she thinks to herself, if you want to be a mother, find someone else. She is my daughter. I surely don't like this woman. Both of them glare at each other as Bear slurps his noodles and thinks, I feel much relieved that Hera is coming with us. All we need is a vehicle to get there. Let's think after I finish eating. Meanwhile, we see 3 men chasing after a girl as they yell, you! Stop! I told you to stop. Do you want to get killed? The girl has a crowbar and some papers in her hand. She runs into a room to evade them. One of the men laughs and says, you fool! She arrives in a restroom with a small window and mutters, did I just get into a restroom? The boy arrives in the room and calls out to her, hey! Startled, she turns around. The boy continues, come over here if you don't want us to smash your head. She drops all her papers. Bear and Hera rummage through cars. This one doesn't work either, he says as he steps out of the car. He peeks over at Hera and asks, how's it over there? She responds, nope. Bear scratches his head in frustration. We've tried about 20 vehicles, but none of them work. We've already gone through every car in this area. What now? We might encounter survivors if we move further from here. Hera turns around and says, let's go. He is surprised. Really? It's dangerous, and you're not fully healed yet. Not caring one bit, she answers. So? What are you planning to do? Nothing. Chuckbach is sick. He stays silent for a second before sighing. I'll lead the way, but you stay behind me since you're a patient. Hera looks at him for a second before walking up to him and kicking his shin with her foot. He groans in pain. What is up with you? She responds, don't overrate yourself. You stay behind. He replies, just say it, don't kick it. She kicks his shin again, and he exclaims, hold on. You just hit my bone. Bear limps around in pain, saying, ouch, what did I do to you, huh? Hera walks ahead and says, do you want me to cut off your leg? He immediately responds, no, I'm sorry. She walks in front of him as he thinks to himself, I'm grateful for her help, but she's too brutal. I might die before we can accomplish anything. He thinks of Chuckbach playing with her mother and sighs. Never mind. I should focus on getting a vehicle before her symptoms get worse. Suddenly, a female voice fills the air crying, help me! Both Bear and Hera are startled. A man's voice responds, shut up! Bear looks up in concern. Isn't that a woman screaming? The cries for help continue. Please, someone help me! Bear begins to move, but Hera grabs him by the collar. She scolds him angrily. Did you forget why we are here? Why do you even consider helping others when you're too weak to help yourself? Just focus on Chuckbach, or this is it for me. Understood? He calmly replies, Hera. She looks at him as he smiles and says, I have a good idea. Please, just hear me out. Hera looks extremely mad. The scene shifts to a dimly lit room where a girl is tied up, trembling. 3 men surround her. One of the men asks, Did you check the rope? The other replies, Are you blind? Look for yourself. The skinny man crouches close to the girl and sneers. What a bummer. Why not enjoy a little bit as a reward for our efforts to catch her? The bald man immediately disagrees. No. She's a hostage. We can exchange her for food in Hope Village. All we need to do is kill the big guy who was with her and steal his car. The other man questions, But what if the village doesn't want her? The men smile like predators. The bald man replies, Then we'll just abandon her after having some fun. The skinny man drools as he grabs the girl and says, To be honest, I hope they refuse. Then you're mine. We'll all be set when we get that car. Suddenly, a weapon clatters to the ground behind the skinny man. He turns around, startled, to see Bear standing there. Bear effortlessly grabs the bald, muscular man and says with a cold glare, Clench your teeth, or you'll never chew again. He kicks the skinny man in the face, knocking his teeth out. Broken and hurt, the remaining men attempt to flee. The bald man yells, Get out of my way! The muscular man waddles away, shouting, Who is this mountain of a man? Before they can escape, Hera punches the bald man in the face. One of the men stammers, What now? Hera glares at them and demands, Hand over everything you have. One of the attackers lunges at her, yelling, Is that a death wish? Hera counters with another devastating punch, leaving their faces bloodied and battered. The scene cuts to later, where the little girl sobs, saying, Thank you so much. Bear responds gently, I'm glad you're okay. What's your name? The girl replies softly, It's Yonghee. He smiles and introduces himself. I'm Bear, and this is Hera. Yonghee looks at Hera and says, Thank you. Wasting no time, Bear asks, By the way, Yonghee, I overheard your conversation earlier. Are you from Hope Village? She nods eagerly. Yes, I am. He turns to Hera with a smile and says, We made the right choice, didn't we? Hera, slightly annoyed, crosses her arms. Yonghee jumps in excitedly. Are you looking for our village? Strong people like you are always welcome at Hope Village. They both look at her as she continues. I came out for the first time to promote our village, but I never expected to meet such reliable people like you two. This is definitely destiny. Beaming, she hands them a flyer. I'm sure our principal and instructor will love to have you in our village. This is a flyer I made myself. Bear takes the flyer and looks it over, thinking to himself. A principal? An instructor? His expression suddenly turns grim as a tall man lunges at them from the shadows. The man swings a shovel-like weapon forward and shouts, Are you with them as well? Hera blocks his attack with her axe, and the man yells again, She's family. Give her back at once. If not, I will chop your body into pieces. The man's rage fills the air as he glares at them. Yonghee quickly intervenes, yelling, Instructor, wait! They saved me! She steps forward, explaining hurriedly, I'm so sorry! I should have followed you carefully. The instructor glares at her for a moment before softening. He smiles and says, It's okay. I'm just glad you didn't get hurt. He then turns to Bear and says apologetically, I'm sorry for what just happened. Bear replies, It's okay. But his attention is caught by the instructor's strange demeanor. The instructor then turns to Yonghee, who trembles under his gaze. Yonghee, he says firmly, I told you to follow me carefully. She stammers, I'm so sorry. This won't happen again. Suddenly, she squeals in pain as the instructor grips her shoulder tightly. His voice takes on a sinister tone. Stay close to me next time, understand? You know I don't like saying the same thing twice. Yonghee winces. Instructor, it hurts. Forgive me. Before she can say more, Bear steps in. He calmly grabs the instructor's hand, stopping him. The instructor freezes and speaks tersely. What are you doing? Why are you grabbing my hand? Bear holds his grip, his gaze unwavering. I'm not interested in holding hands with men. The instructor sneers, trying to pull away. Hera silently steps forward, her axe at the ready. Yonghee looks back at Bear and says, Mister. The scene grows tense, but Bear smiles widely, grabbing the instructor's hand and shaking it as he gently pushes Yonghee out of the way. My goodness, are you the instructor from Hope Village? It's so nice to meet you, Bear exclaims. He continues enthusiastically. I've heard a lot about the village from Yonghee. Yonghee watches, her expression puzzled, as Bear praises her. I was really impressed by her speech. She did a fantastic job promoting the village and kept telling us how great her instructor is. The instructor turns to Yonghee and says, Did she? Yonghee flinches but musters up some courage, nodding with sparkling eyes. I see, the instructor says before bursting into laughter. Where are my manners? I am Su Minek, an instructor at Hope Village. Bear laughs as well. I'm Woon Kim, he says, thinking to himself, it worked. Now I should ask, he speaks. Instructor Su, would it be possible for my family to visit your village? The instructor looks curious. Your family? Are there others besides you? Bear points at Hera, who looks startled. I have a wife right here beside me, and a daughter. He continues. My daughter is sick. Do you think she could receive treatment in your village? Hera glares at Bear, who begins to sweat nervously. After a tense moment, the instructor smiles and replies, We have a doctor in our village who can take a look at her. But there's one issue, you'll need to pay an entrance fee. Bear smiles in relief. No worries. We've already prepared for that. The instructor nods. I'm glad to hear that. He turns to leave, saying, I'll deliver this news to the village first. Let's meet tomorrow in front of this building. Bear responds, All right. Thank you. The instructor turns to Yonghee and says, Let's go. Yonghee rushes after him, but she stops briefly, turning to Bear to bow in respect and gratitude. Bear waves back with a smile, thinking, Good. What a lucky day. Now little Chuck Bach can get treatment. He turns to Hera, saying, Hera, we should go. But Hera kicks him in the leg. Bear falls to the ground, yelling in pain. What is wrong with you? Hera glares down at him. Your wife? Do you wish to die? Still on the ground, Bear groans. Think about it. That was the only way they wouldn't suspect us. Hera huffs and turns away. You are not my type at all. Bear stares at her in disbelief. You've got to be kidding me.